Grown Man Shit, episode 10. 10? 10. 10. Today we are talking about what men are looking for in a partner, which varies over their age, and we'll get into that. But we all hear conversations from women that tell us what we should be looking for or what we should value in them. We're going to talk from our perspective about what we really value.
Grown man conversation.
Grown man conversation. Exactly.
I hope you're ready.
So it's a conversation of what women want, and it sounds like the flip side of what women want men to want.
Well, it's not even about what women want. It's what we want.
We want.
And
we're going.
I'm hearing we're talking to what women let be known about what we should want, or I hear the
there will be some of that. I get that.
The shaming to that's a popular dialogue, especially when body count things come up about what men value,
right?
And the objection to is to shame it, put it down, dismiss it, so on and so forth, like you said.
Women want men to value what women value, and they shame men for valuing what men value.
What they women want men to value what women value or what women have.
I think both. Well, I would phrase it more. Women want men to value what they want them to value. So whatever is convenient for that woman, because it may vary.
It is definitely going to vary.
If I'm 300 pounds, I need you to not value that.
Yeah, right? I need you to not care. I need you to care that I work hard, make money, and I'm a good woman and a good cook. You need to not care that I'm 300 pounds.
Bingo. So I need you to minimize this thing that it's really not that big of a deal.
Right.
And I need you to elevate it. And then I think the conversation is going to shift. Because this is where that antagonism comes from. Whereas that women do the exact opposite in terms of their own, which is what frustrates many men. Mm-hmm. They tend to do the exact opposite with themselves. You need to be, the famous 6 figure, 6
right.
Of
you need to have
6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
6'6". Well, 6'6", 12.
Right, all kinds of, right. 12. 12 inches tall, of course.
Yeah, that's
But, yeah, and then so it's like that accept me as I am only applies to them.
Right.
So it's that interest. That's where I see a lot of that contention whenever this conversation comes up. And so I guess we can go into the why. I think it's really obvious the why. What would be your motivation for wanting me to accept you as you don't have to change. Right.
But you get to still change us.
Right. Or have requirements. Because it's not even like women necessarily even try to change the guy. It's just that you don't meet it, or you meet it, or you don't. You don't make 6 figures? Okay. I'll find one that does. Unless she's with a guy, it's very rare I see that these days, where that was more old school. Stay with them, build them, like these days I rarely ever see a woman talk about, I rarely
that's actually true. In this Tinder society, we tend to swipe left a lot quicker after meeting somebody.
Right.
It's not that, I like him, he's got these qualities, let me help him get to these qualities. It's more like, okay, you ain't where I want you to be, I'm gonna find somebody else. And men are the same way. We do the same thing.
That's actually a good point. I was curious as to do y'all feel men have the same type standards or preferences, right? Having the preference is one thing, and wanting the partner to change into those preferences. To your point, men are more likely to
try to
find one that fits
right
instead. But two, what was you were just saying? Gone that quick. It's gonna be a good conversation.
Men, historically, and you're right that things have changed. It used to be before everybody realized they had so many options, or before the options were so accessible.
Right, access is really
access has shifted drastically. So before that, women would find a man that they could grow. Men would find a man still that would match them.
Men would find a man.
Men would find a woman.
Different grown man shit.
Different grown man shit. Men would find a woman that would fit what they were looking for.
Right.
So I know a lot of men and women who were in that time period broke up from relationships because the woman changed.
Mm-hmm.
The man never wanted the woman to change. Mm-hmm. We find what we want, we get what we want, we like it, you're good. Stay just as you are. Mm-hmm. You know? That's not realistic.
I was going to say.
It's not realistic at all, but that's what we want. Mm-hmm. Just like it's also not realistic for a woman to find a man and say like, you have all these qualities, I'm going to make you be something different. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to nurture that, whatever, the abuse, the wage, the you're not going to be in the music industry forever. You're going to get out that rap thing. You're going to get out that drug thing for me. You're going to stop hoeing for me. Da 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 da. Mm-hmm. Women go through that. Women will accept crap to grow the man out of it. Men don't want a woman to change. That was my point.
And before we even get started, I guess we kind of already got started. We'll think it's important to even define value, right? Because that's the core thing we're discussing. And so value, as far as I can tell, is because it's value really, like at the most fundamental first principle level to humans, is anything that gives us the feeling we want.
Mm-hmm.
So money, like when people say I want to be rich, or really what they're saying is I want the ability to get the emotions I want. Whether you think you're going to get it through a trip, or this car, or just now I feel important because I have a lot of something people don't have, which is money,
Status,
whatever that is. But it's to buy an emotion, because fundamentally all we're doing everything for is a feeling. And so okay, what feeling do I want? And so value. In reality, there's an infinite amount of things that we can pay attention to, right? At all times. Like, even as I learned this from Jordan really pointed this out, Jordan Peterson. It's like, when we look in a room, we think of it as like a clear pathway where you go here, but there's 1.5 million things. I could be focused on the granulars in the wall. Mm-hmm. Like, have I ever really looked at that light switch? No. You know, it's there functionally, but I've never actually really. And so this room to me is, I've actually never really seen this room in any real sense. I've only seen it in a functional sense of, couch is going to go there, da-da-da. It's a space for me to do things in. But the room is way more than just a space for a human being, right? Mm-hmm. But we picture the world, our value systems dictate what we're paying attention to. And so we could say value is what people pay attention to more often than not. So if we're talking about in people, or let's use the house analogy and then we go to people. If you're buying a home, different people are going to value different things, meaning I want an open space with a lot of windows because that's going to give me the feeling I want. The other person may be like, I don't want a bunch of light because that's going to give me the feelings I don't want because I don't like a bunch of light. Somebody else, I need it to be 3-bed. They need 10, you know. And I need
the closet, I need the kitchen.
Right. But nobody is right or wrong because they have different things on their value hierarchy. Mm-hmm. For me, a lot of space is important. For them, a big living room is not important. Big house important, small house is important. For whatever life experiences cause them to be that way. Mm-hmm. And so if we take a house and we shift that to a person, they're doing the same scanning process. And so men looking, let's just say men just looking at women as a group, not even the switching it yet. A man looking just at 5 women he's seeing, for example, are going to like them differently because, let's say, he values his number one thing is beauty on his value system. Then the next thing is femininity. The third is, you know, the sex, freakiness, whatever his value hierarchy. He's going to experience each woman differently based on which one is meeting that value ladder the closest. So if one of them is super pretty, and then if he values femininity next, super feminine, Great, but he's gonna, man, I don't know why I like this girl so much. And then the other one's super pretty, kind of feminine, kind of okay in bed, maybe even prettier than the other one, but it's not big enough of a gap to where it's like she's a 4 and she's a 10. It's like they're in the same ballpark. I am slightly more physically attracted to this one, but the other one is meeting more of the value ladder than the other one. She just meets the looks one really high, and so that all goes into the chemistry thing because of those different values being met. So if we have that basis down, then we can start the convo about like the man-woman thing. Because the whole point of us having this convo is when women look at a man, their value system is different from when men are looking at women. And women get frustrated in the sense that really the statement is, why isn't your value system similar to mine? That's really what the convo is about. I've had the degrees, and I'm well paid, and I think I'm a great person. That's subjective. And so it's like I should have a man, and if I don't, it's the man's fault for not seeing my value. Right. And that's the whole conversation.
That's the whole men don't like strong women thing.
But so you're a weak man because you don't like
you don't like
what you think. So it's like understanding like value is not dictated to a person. Like that's like saying you should like big houses, and if you don't like big houses, you're just a small-minded person, and you're poor, and like what? It's just. But that's literally what people are talking about. Right? You should value this, and if you don't, I'm going to call you this, and you're weak, and you're
the shaming.
It's the shame,
right? So, what are your thoughts? If you want to break down value even further, you could, or just thoughts on whatever.
The only thing in value that I heard mentioned when you were saying physical attraction, I just want to add that generally, there are 5 women standing right there, physical attraction, and again, this is all subjective, we're all different. But I do think all men look at a woman and looking at her style. That woman has the style of woman that I'm attracted to. So my experience is women with this particular style fit these particular requirements I'm looking for. So I tend to be attracted to women with locks because they tend to be more, in my experience, more spiritual, nurturing, metaphysical, naturopathic, that kind of thing. So I'm going to notice that first. And so based on that style, I'm going to say, okay, she may or may not have these other requirements. So before I even get to talk to you, I'm going to move in this direction based on style, which is the same as attraction.
Well, we're going into the nitty gritty now. That was just an example.
Right. That's just what came up when you were talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, because physical just means whatever captures your eye.
Whatever captures your eye.
Right. So it's like, well, if that's...
But it's not... I guess what I wanted to point to is it's rarely as shallow as...
Really?
It is. It's rarely as shallow as... So let me qualify that. Let me qualify that.
I was like, we're careful what you're about to say.
So we're talking about 2 things. Because men don't look at a woman for one thing. We look at a woman as fuckable and dateable. There are women that I would have sex with that I would not date.
Right.
So in those 5 women, they're split into that category when I look and speak to them.
Well, but you're only splitting them because of the same value hierarchy.
It's the same value hierarchy, but they're going in different buckets for what I want. So,
because of your value hierarchy. There's a reason she's fuckable and not dateable. Like she's missing one of your values that you require for her to be in the dating box. You understand what I'm saying?
If I'm looking at her purely from a style perspective,
Right.
then I'm making assumptions based on her style
Right.
that
She's not going to meet.
she's not going to meet these other things.
Right.
Now I wanted to get back to this. To actually, the point of all of that was really speaking to the woman out there. Your style that you present yourself in the world is going to dictate who steps to you. Period. Women, I've had conversations, well, we should just be able to do what we want to do and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, but if you present yourself a certain way, you're going to get a certain kind of dude. Period. Because just like if I present myself a certain way, I'm going to get a certain kind of woman.
Or not.
Or not. Exactly. Exactly.
You're like, you should want me. I don't care if I look like Poindexter. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm not going to argue that, like,
so what if this shirt is too small?
Exactly. So I'm walking around here and looking like something out of Revenge of the Nerds. There's a certain kind of woman that's attracted to that, and there's a certain kind of woman that's not.
Right.
If I got a muscle shirt on and a six pack and da 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 da, there's a certain kind of woman who's attracted to that, and a certain kind of woman who's not.
Fine line to that one.
Oh, there is, absolutely, absolutely. Because women nowadays have that whole idea as well of fuckable, dateable.
I would say yes, and it to the last point, the six pack and muscles. There's things, there are more primitive indicators under there that's not even at their conscious level. It's more.
Oh yeah,
just
yeah. There's definitely animalistic mating stuff that goes on in our pheromones and what we're attracted to and breeding and
So what would y'all does anybody want to add anything that they feel like I missed in terms of the value definition?
The only thing I'd say is the caveat, exponential multiplier is feminine nature to the whole fucking thing. I think on both sides, because the feminine nature is going to, or we're talking about the shame and everything, because that's the element of what they don't want to do, don't want to deal with. It's too hard, or they're going with. And to the same regard, feminine nature is also the flowing that qualifies what men's value are, coming back to the preferences we were talking about. I just feel like that for men, because we are the logical and pragmatic, it's pretty straightforward about what men value. Outside of maybe what society looks like every 500 to 1,000 years.
Right.
If everything shifts and it is more valuable to know that you are, the 300 pound may even be a sign of fertility or wealth in the family, like things that your legacy is going to go on, then that'll be what's valued. I keep hearing the opposite of the conversation, what women want and their preferences, and how men navigate that space, even with our own actual value. But no, to your point about what is value, what is of value, I think you hit it well. That all encompass.
So now we can get to, now the audience is at a point, okay. So value, just as a recap for that sentence, is what people are looking for. Let's just use it in a people context. What people are looking for in other people that they think will give them the emotional experience they want. That's really why we're with people. Even if it's a functional thing, there's a feeling at the end of that that we're looking for.
We chase feelings as human beings.
Right. And so value is like, okay, why does a woman want six figures? There's a feeling behind. She wants to feel secure, safe, or comfortable, or whatever. She projects, I'll be able to go to Fiji if he's fixed, whatever, and conditioning and stuff. But, there's still a feeling attached that she is assuming she'll get. So that's value, feeling. So now we can get to the...
Do you feel it's different or not could not be captured in sexual market value, is that a different conversation?
In terms of value? What do you mean by that?
Because what we're talking about is what men and women want from the opposite each other. I feel like there's it's still like yours has the umbrella of is feeling, and it pertains to sexual market, breeding, legacy, family building, all those things.
What do you
Can
mean
you
when you
define
say
it?
sexual
Yeah, I was gonna
market
say.
value?
Can you define that?
So
So you're thinking about it.
Social dynamics between men and women dating, what is on that scale, what is to be a value. So value as a human being, you're like just to society or just as a human being, those sets of values, are you a good person versus are you a person that the opposite sex wants to be with, mate with, build life with?
Well, even in that, let's say that, because let's say we took it to sexual marketplace value. When I picture that, it becomes a conversation of us, I guess, kind of having dialogue on the women's, what we're hearing from the women. Meaning, like, the convo would go into, well, we're hearing this on the women's, and then we're hearing this on the men's, and then it becomes a convo about both, which we could have.
I'm looking to uncollapse in my head because that is what's showing up. So what's the other take?
Well, the way we were going to go initially was the outlining what men's side of the argument is, and saying we hear, because the women, that's the meme, the 6 6 12 is always that's not the common, the thing men are having problems with, and why all these videos are arising is because that qualification is a very, very small percentage of men. So it's not even a worthy conversation. It doesn't matter if that's your, you know what I'm saying? You could say you want a guy with a wing. You know what I mean? It doesn't, all women in the planet could gather and decide we're not having sex until we find a guy with a wing. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
That's the end of humanity.
That's it.
Right. Like, so in a way, that's already handled. And so it would be like finally having the dialogue, almost partly for a guy watching that wants to be able to explain this to a woman when she says the rhetoric, or a woman watching it going, oh, okay, I guess I was doing that. I didn't realize I was projecting my values on men. So it's like more so the podcast focusing on the male perspective versus like discussing the market as a whole and like, you know what I mean?
What I hear, and I heard this when you said the 6 6 12 thing. That's going to become a thing.
And it up
Right? Historically, in the I guess pre-80s, the idea of what men were looking for physically that would equate to that 6 6 12 became demonized. And that was the idea of, I don't even remember the numbers, 35, 24, 36. You know what I'm talking about? Hourglass shape. What was it? 36 bust, 25 waist, 36, 38, whatever your preference was. There's no difference in that there weren't a lot of women who fit that mold either. But that was still the ideal. That ideal that men have was demonized to the point where nobody even talks about it anymore.
Right.
You know, it's not
Or
even
you're
part of the vernacular. You're a misogynist if you go that way. You know?
Which is interesting with the phenomenon with women chasing the BBLs that nobody's necessarily asking for.
Right.
Each other.
That last
Right.
part, right?
That part. That part.
What he's asking for.
But they're doing it for them.
I've never heard a guy go, man, I really was glad when she got that BBL. Like, I've
Right.
heard one guy
Well,
ever.
no. I do know there are guys who enjoyed women who got bust implants and breast implants and all that. I know guys who, I don't know any guys who like the BBLs. I don't know any.
I don't
that
know
like
a
the
single
BBLs.
guy ever. And I used to
Yeah.
work years ago at a Nordstrom where you'd see them in like a fucking carousel, like just in and out, like, and never once, never once. You know, most of them look awful. Just being frank about it. Like on a true, what were you thinking, girl?
If you haven't gotten it from the exercise and the work, it ain't going to be attracted to us.
Like, I always break this down to women and say, well, you guys are, because most women, especially when they're slimmer, unless they have that, you have a small percentage who were built like that somewhat, and then also do fitness. And really shaped it. Like, that's a very rare subsection. But even the women who you look at and be like, oh, damn, that's like you're at the gym or something.
Right.
You'd be like, oh, that's the perfect. But if you ask her, she'd say it needs to be bigger. And so it's very rare she's going, no, it's right where I want it. Very rare I hear that. And what I was explaining to women, because they're comparing it to, it's sort of like guys in the gym. A woman's ideal of a fit body is very different than what a man
does. Yeah.
Dudes, like, if you don't look like Arnold, what are you doing? All right. If you, that's disgusting. And so men, as you're saying, have their things that they are delusional about. But going back to the butt thing, I've noticed whenever I had a slim woman, and I prefer that, and like more of a poke than, I'll get with a girl like that, but it's not my preference in terms of like what draws me naturally. And so, they'd all say like, if I have a little more butt, it would be great. And so I'm like, if you had a little more butt, I wouldn't be here. Because you think what draws a man to you is the size of the butt. I'm saying it's the proportion of the body. It's not the size of it in and of itself. If your poke is fitting with your build, thighs, all that, we're just as drawn to it. Yep. If it's a massive butt and the thigh ratio is off, we don't like it.
We're not interested.
Right. It's not about the size in and of itself. And so that's what I was like, it's about your ratio. Right. Just like
toothpicks propping up some
like gross. You know what I mean? We don't like
You need balance. We like balance. All things perfectly balanced as all things should be.
So it's but the BBL situations is from that misconception. You see a gorgeous woman and then a random BBL. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like
back when Botox was a thing, when they were making the lips.
It's like, what are you thinking? But comparing themselves and feeling inadequate, that's a whole.
It is. I remember one girl where she was older, and I had complimented her ass. We were laying in bed, and I was like, "Oh my God, your ass is beautiful." And she was like, "It used to be better." I'm like, "Take the compliment. Like, your ass is perfect. Like, it doesn't get any better. It's like it's beautiful." It's like, "No, I used to be thinner, and I used to do this, and I used to do this, and da 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 da." And I'm like,
this is literally what we're talking about. That's the point of the convo. It's like, no. I hear what you're saying, as you little man, but I'm telling you exactly. I'm telling you that this is how you're supposed to.
I'm supposed to value
when you used to look like this. I know you have your little opinion, but trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
I know what I used to look like, and I know better than you do. So you should respect that. I used to look better and just stop complimenting me, which you can't do.
I'm telling you, you would have liked it more. Right. It was like this.
Right.
You're telling her no. What it's like now. I'm telling you, beautiful. It was better, and you would have liked it more. And so that's that. That's that. I don't know if it's just an infinite dynamic that will never change. I think in some sense it is, but that's that. For the one woman watching grown man shit until
My guess is a bunch of folk will be watching.
Well, when we get to that point, people are going, "Yo, let's go back to their old episode." So, that's when it's when people are trying to take us down, and they're like, "Let's go find the old clips." See,
they said such and such.
Lewis is a buttist.
A buttist. Hey,
didn't allow that
little booties matter.
Well, he only likes fat butts. Cancel Lewis. Right, so but
flat shaming.
Flat shaming.
But but that's just my wrap up on the whole proportion. Like, that's a massive misconception.
It is.
Just tack on a big butt and everything is fixed.
It is. And just to be fair, because I'm sure I know such and such, or I like that. There are exceptions, but from the conversations I've had, I do not think the majority of men care.
Or like it. Is that even just care? Like, I've never even heard a guy say anything positive.
Yeah.
Never like man, that's it, right? They may just accept it. Like, like you do. That's what I was saying earlier, what you're saying. You're like, man, I'm like, really? Because you got dudes out there is like.
Well, that goes back to what I said before the podcast. Generally, when I have the conversations with women about how men aren't selective and do this,
Mm-hmm.
my response is, historically, men fuck sheep. We don't care. We don't care. It doesn't matter to us where we put our dick beyond certain constraints. Whatever reason we have to choose, that's what we're going to choose. Whatever.
But you should want this.
Yeah, we don't care. We don't.
As a group, I'd say that.
As a group. Obviously, individually, we all have our preferences. I don't want a sheep.
But I will admit, like, because women say that, and if I were to take that in terms of, let's really think about what she's saying. Men will fuck anything. Because they're not saying Vidal will fuck anything. I'm like, these women are clearly getting offers, and meaning, some situations where, you'd be like, dang, where's the confidence coming from? You know what I mean? Not to be too mean about that, but, I wasn't super. It's funny, Kevin Samuels has been coming up in women's combos with me lately. Even though I've never watched him in any in-depth other than I told you about the image consulting world back before all this stuff. And so, all the women apparently didn't like him. There's a reason. So there's a very specific reason why I referenced Kevin. What we were talking about right before that. The butts. What were we talking about?
BBLs not being attractive.
Right after that, what did we transition into? Because there's I feel it, and it's really critical to the conversation. Women preferences, men's preferences. None of y'all? Come on. This is true. None of us. It's good.
We don't know what we're talking about here. We're just
conversation. It's like Kevin Samuels, the woman. It's like one of them blow the combo open type of points.
You had said Kevin Samuels been coming up in conversation. You were about to reference him, but I don't know where you were going.
Right, but I was like, what were we talking about right before that? So you said something and I pinged off it. And we were talking about something that made me think of Kevin because it was going to relate to women.
Sheep,
fucking any. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's there. So group. Yeah, if I was thinking about women, yeah.
Sheep fucking.
Right, there we go. That's it. Now I get. So the women that in the clips I'd see with all this entitlement, you have to really question, because you're looking. Us are looking at it. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. This woman has 100 kids.
Right.
This built like a monster. Truly. And it's like the level of something like that can't be a vacuum delusional confidence. Like she's getting offers, and so that really goes back to that. Because what a woman's really saying is because I think women, it's hard for them to gauge where they rank, because in terms of world level of are you truly a smoke show 10 kind of, if we just use that scale, or you're cute, but a lot of guys approach you is a delusion, because I've seen smoke shows think they're 6s, and I've seen other things.
Right.
Right. So
nobody, and this probably men or women, is a good gauge of
Right.
how they present themselves or appear in the world to the opposite
Right.
sex.
Right. And so, their own self-esteem and confidence play a role in that. But going back to some of the women that I'd see, I'm like, how is this? But that goes back to what Lewis was saying. There has to be an element of girl thinking, let's say she's actually in that range of like true stunner. Oh, his boyfriend cheated on me with a, and so that experience of, she looks far worse than me, and he still fucked her. So it's not enough to be a stunner to guarantee that he won't go have sex with someone else. Whereas,
So, no, go ahead, finish.
but I was just saying, whereas men like to believe, well, if I'm the ideal, and it does vary. Going back to the projecting their values or their lens on us. A lot of the driver for that is just men like to fuck different women. It's not really about it does matter that ideally she looks better, but it's not, that's not the driving force,
Right.
isn't that she's better than you. Whereas with a woman,
Arnold Schwarzenegger fucked his maid who didn't look anything near as good as his wife.
right, it's just new pussy, right?
Right.
And so with women, their system is like, usually when a woman drifts, it's because it's a rare case where she's on a trip and she can get away with it. But most of the time it's because there's an inadequacy in the guy that she's getting from the other guy. That gap is being filled and they drift.
That's true for men too, but go on.
So, for sure. But I'm saying like a man could have the most ideal woman and still have the urge. Like it's not a contentment. Oh, I have no further desires.
Right.
Like he can, and he's low-key, he's consciously suppressing the urge. Meaning, if his woman was like, Lewis, isn't that girl gorgeous?
Mm-hmm.
You want to have sex with her? Like she's so hot. I'd be okay with that. He's not, honey, I have no desire for any other vagina but yours. He's like, what? Say less. Finally, you've caught on.
You want me to get you over or something?
Right. Get you home.
You need something when I'm on the way back. So guys, 99% of guys are like that. So it is a nature difference.
Mm-hmm, there is.
But going back to the fucking sheep thing is like, it's new. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but you were about to say.
Oh. And I'm going to elaborate on this. Men will fuck anything, but we will not keep anything.
That's for sure.
That's a huge distinction we have to make. Just because we're willing to fuck you doesn't mean we're willing to keep you. I remember a woman who, she had 10 kids, different dads. And got pregnant again.
Yo, you ever seen that meme with that one guy? That's the most natural.
She did, but she's pregnant. Oh, she got pregnant. She had another one. She had 11. And I'm like...
By 10 different dudes, you said?
Yeah, the 11 was different. And I'm like...
You can't even find
who's the dude? Like, how low do your standards have to be where not only are you going to... I don't care. And she was cute. She was a good-looking woman. She was fine. But I don't care how fine you are. At some point, if I'm concerned about your choices, if for no other reason than I ain't trying to catch shit and get burnt. If you out there like that and your standards are such that there comes a point where everybody makes choices. Mm-hmm. Everybody makes choices that have consequences. At some point, you have to realize how babies are made.
10 different dudes is...
It may not be 10. It could be 7 or 6. It doesn't matter.
Twins out.
But...
You're saying this is a hypothetical?
No, this is somebody I know.
Okay.
My point was...
Louis trying to save the innocent, but I mean, whoever knows, they're not gonna know twin. Oh, there are 10 Brendas I know with 10 kids from different. Like they're very clear. Whoever.
I am very, very clear that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. So I'm gonna leave that alone. But my point is, we may not have our standards are lower for who we fuck than who we keep.
For sure.
And that's kind of the point I want to make. It's those 5 women we started off with on that row. Yeah, there might be some woman, that woman with the BBL, she putting it in my face, it's dinner. I'm going to eat it. But I'm not going to keep it.
Right.
I'm going to, for me to keep you, how do you match with me? Can you be my partner? Can you nurture me? Do you have my back? Those kind of conversations. That goes back to what you were saying. What are we looking for?
Is it general that, how do I ask this? Is it general that all men will fuck anything, right? Or is there a point of maturity, or is there a spectrum? Because even to that scenario, hypothetical or not, 10 kids, 6, 7, whatever, baby daddies, that situation, in my mind, what I always see is like, that's gone so low, regardless of how she even looks, because the other indicators are there for me, and that's, I see.
But as you though, if we're talking, will she have trouble getting dick? No. True. Like, let's be real.
True.
Right, true.
She won't.
That is the general. Okay, value. Coming back to value.
Right.
Will she get some value dick?
Right.
Something to lose.
Exactly.
Because what I'm actually thinking too, like, what's the line or what's the causality? Because for me at least, there's a threshold where the time, the energy, all the things that equate to more than just getting a nut off. Having the taste of that feminine flavor, yes. And if you've got a purpose, if you've got drive, if there's things that you're up to, that is extremely, is she worth the resources, the time, energy, effort, money, whatever gets involved in it, to pursue the next nut or that slice of?
To me and you, no. To somebody, yeah.
Absolutely. To that, even with the whole conversation, not in the sexual market aspect, but there's so many skewed perspectives because the average guy, let alone knowing his own value, having any context of, is this worth it, is just so deprived, desperate.
Right, I was going to say, that's steeped in abundance.
So,
right.
It's steeped in abundance, but you also have, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, the woman was wounded, who she's going to find is wounded men. Because barring that there's been no evolution, and we're creating this box now, that this person hasn't done work on themselves, they haven't evolved, they haven't said, oh my God, I've had 7 kids, I need to look at myself.
Right.
Let's assume they haven't done that. They're still living their life. Who she's going to find are wounded men who fall into that same category, or a complementary category of
just for sex or for
sex or trying to impregnate. Oh, I know I can get this one pregnant. I can have another baby. Because there are absolutely men out there who just want to procreate. They're like, yeah, I just want to pop. I mean, how many guys? I want to beat Nick Cannon's record. That's what I want to do. You know?
But that's what I'm saying, like to Dwayne's point, or Dwayne's statement, I think it's hard for him to divorce his lens.
Right? Absolutely. And so, absolutely.
But you got to understand,
this is a quality man versus...
Right. There is shit out there you would never imagine.
So what I will say about Dwayne is whatever wounds he had, he's dealt with.
Meaning, I'm saying that he can't... Like, what I'm seeing in him is that, because he's like, really? Like, I can tell he's genuinely shocked, where you're not, because you've seen stuff like that.
I've seen stuff like that.
I'm assuming in Dwayne's world, he doesn't have a point of reference for a guy like that. Mm-hmm. So it does require the literal exposure to, or you're gonna think, oh, well, that's not real,
Right.
without even
And that's
knowing
fair.
they're doing that, because it's a blind spot of like sometimes people will tell me stuff. What are you talking about? Because my blind spot was that I'm a fish in water in terms of the people who are I'm around typically. So offshoot people they know, or somebody they told somebody a story through, like what? There's no way.
We are all expanded only by our experiences and our conversations around other people's experiences.
We could definitely have been like, let's say something like, because now this goes back to the access thing with the whole swipe left. It's a good transition back to that. The assumption is that, well, I don't know if people explicitly say this, but the assumption is that we've changed because social media, because Tinder. And it's like, well, we're the same creatures with more access. It's sort of like if I took somebody and all they had access to was bananas and apples, right? And then I expand that and put them in a different garden with every fruit on the earth. Mm-hmm. They now have access and opportunity they never had before. So it's not like they changed, but their behaviors are going to go to because the environment changed. So similarly, back in the day, bro was picking shorty because he only had access to maybe 4 other women, and she was the best of the 4. And he knows for him to even find another one in a small town, it's a man
Going through that process. That woman as well. Right.
No. Because we have to really think about this in terms of, we don't think about it like physical women, but let's say an app, or I guess Instagram's an app, but let's use a dating app specifically. If you're, excuse me, the kind of man that draws in a lot of what women are looking for, and you go on there, it's the equivalent of a room of like 1,000 women, like a physical room of 1,000 women, which is inconceivable to a guy. What does a guy do who has access, who can get and has access to 1,000 women, and vice versa? But now women aren't scanning in terms of 1,000 men from a numeral, like a number standpoint. They're saying I have 1,000 of the top men.
Wow.
And so meaning like whatever their value system is. So if Lewis is trying to get with me, Lewis meets some of my criteria, and then Dwayne DMs me. Dwayne also meets some of my criteria but makes more money. Or let's say y'all are the same people, Dwayne makes more money. So you're gonna go, let's see. Keep you here, keep Dwayne there. Let's see. You don't know about Dwayne. Right. Dwayne doesn't know about Lewis. Right? So, which is why guys get so upset about the Instagram DM. Let me see your DMs. But that's real. When women do it, men will go, room 1,000 beautiful women want to fuck me. Let's fuck them all.
Right.
Women are more like, I want to try to sift for the best one, but I'd like to keep the benefits of all of them in terms of cash apps. And, or as long as I can, I'd be cool with fucking with the one.
As long as I can still get the benefits of
unless he's supplementing all of the other ones. Like he's so much far ahead of them that I'll just get the cash apps from him. And so there's a dynamic of access that's playing out of the nature, like our nature to the most extreme sense. Women are like now hyper. So that's where this whole 6-6-12 thing came from. They're just parroting back the nature of other women who manage or claim they secured a guy like that, and they're posting all of the pictures.
I'm as good as she is, so.
Right. Like posting all the pictures. Man, look at her life. I don't want a guy that can't give me that. Because women are competitive with each other. But that just has not ever been able to play out. Because how in God's name you know what Brenda doing? Like, you don't know. Even if she says she go to Fiji, if you've never been to Fiji, all you know is the words.
She on a
maybe
beach.
A photo. But you even still then she had to be your neighbor. You know what I mean? Like it was really proximal. Now this Instagram model you've never met, you don't remember her name. You know her whole life. You know where every country she's been to.
And her life looks amazing, and you're comparing your life to hers.
And she's thinking, okay, if I pair with Bob over here, great guy, would have been excellent back in the day if Bob was all I knew,
right,
had access to. But Robert over here is telling me he can offer me what that Instagram girl has. And so, am I going to go, I'm not going to take, no, Robert, I like Bob, he's a good guy. And never venture and tease or maybe see what can go down with that.
Right, what can
Very
happen.
unlikely. And it doesn't even mean she's more sexually attracted to the guy that can
right.
get that
It just
experience.
means that she's looking at chasing the feeling.
Right, and Bob can't offer that particular feeling,
Right.
the trips, and so it's like, well, now we have a just this archetype of the amalgamation of all of the categories of feelings she thinks she'd want. So if I saw a girl on Instagram or I saw guys on Instagram that fit my physical profile, didn't have the money for physical profile. Okay, I want his physical profile. Okay, this guy's money. This guy's, I don't know how to know him about the date. That's just more personal experience. But okay. I'm sure he exists. You know what I mean?
Keep finding.
That's a standard.
I like this about this guy. I like this about this guy. Even when they go out, it's like, well, the last guy did such and such. I want you to do that too. I expect you to do that too.
Right. And so it's become the access has created delusion. And I think both sides.
It is, absolutely. I was about to say both sides.
Both sides. Now you have guys who, and this is what the girl was saying, it was like, because she was from LA. She was saying that, yeah, guys in LA, we as successful women, have to pick from a very small category of men. And category of men isn't actually small. It's just, again, the ones that
Right.
meet your value system will make more than you, smarter than you, blah, blah, blah. Again, that's the woman's nature to want to date up. And so it's like, what does that nature look like when you have access visually to every man on earth in terms of not even necessarily like you're physically following everybody, obviously, but as far as you can tell, all the men you see are all the men on earth. Like that's how your brain is receiving it, which is why they probably think it's such a large pool.
And from a dating app perspective, and I want to make this point before you go on, from a dating app perspective, there are a shitload more men than women on dating apps.
Wise.
So women have, like, we see what we see on a dating app.
Right.
But have you ever flipped through a girl's dating app? The shit that they have and that they deal with.
That's probably with the Kevin Samuels issue. That's probably, I didn't think about a dating app perspective. Like that same woman going on the app and getting blown the fuck up.
Right.
You know what I'm
because
saying?
she absolutely does get blown the fuck up. Because men are like, fuckable, not fuckable, fuckable, not fuckable.
Nah, it's worse than that. Men are...
Right. And you're right. There are men just like, yeah.
I didn't know that. One of my homeboys was like, I just write everybody and then unmatch the ones I don't want.
Exactly.
So if that's a thing, then all women
are getting an abundance. Because, and I understand why he does that. Because any given woman gets matched with dozens of guys a day. You know, pretty much anybody a woman swipes on, she's gonna get a match on. You know, especially if they're doing what your friend is doing.
Right.
You know,
right, so it's really like I'm probably gonna match with him. I'm probably gonna.
But your friend is doing that because there's a lot less women on these apps than men. So everybody is getting fucked up psychologically by the apps in general. Just because outside of your high value men who have an abundance are the men who know how to frame their dating app, who get hit all the time.
Right.
Men are less likely to get hit. Your average man is less likely to get anywhere near as many hits.
Oh, I mean,
as your average woman.
I mean, that's
like
no
forget the top.
But
no,
no matter who you are,
My point,
you could be Don Juan. You are not beating a below average woman on an app.
On an app, because there are so many men on the app, but it messes up everybody's perception of who they have and of who they are and who they have access to, and what quality really is. Because going to your point of the girl who chose the guy who could take her to Fiji, she's been bought, and 9 times out of 10, the dude knows that, and he's going to treat her as such, which is not necessarily what she wants. In general, there are some women who don't care. Like, give me what I want, I don't care. But in general, most women, I don't think, want to be treated like they were bought. But because they chose Fiji over Bob, because Bob couldn't give them Fiji, they've limited themselves. Also because women also on the apps, they tend to be more monogamous on the apps than men.
Oh yeah, 99%.
Even on the apps.
Because if you're swiping like that, you're not looking for your wife.
Right. But even then, no, I'm not even talking about from that perspective.
I mean, but meaning
women on the app will talk to 1, 2, or 3 people. Period.
Oh, you're talking about just in general. Oh yeah,
just in general. Dudes will be like having 50 conversations.
If bro gets a bunch of this ultra track,
and we juggle them and see, okay, which one? It's like buckshot or spitballs at the wall. What's gonna stick?
Is that true? Women don't.
Most women I've spoken to on the apps, they don't have. Most of them are talking 2, 3, 4.
Nah.
They have access to more, but they don't speak to as many.
Because
they'll write them off really, really quick, which is kind of the point.
But that's why would the behavior of them be any different in real life? That's exactly how it is in real life. They get approached infinitely more than us, and they're far more upfront picky than us.
So you don't think that they'll? And inside of dating, I don't actually have it like they're qualifying for a relationship. Say arbitrage, lifestyle benefits, whatever the case. Dating men, the one that's going to treat her with the money, the one that's going to blow her out.
I don't think they do unless it's obvious up front. So, and here's an example. I had a mentee say match with a girl. She's like, "Hey, cash at me the right." So it's it depends. So there is unless there's. If she's actually looking for partnership, she's gonna behave just like a woman. That's a factor, yeah. If she's actually, because it's very rare women are in there just looking for dick. Like even in that, there's a level of.
Because at the end of the day, a woman doesn't need to go on an app to get dick.
Just dick, right? So there's an element of I want the dick to stick around, which is going to the even if it's just that. Some consistency to it. I don't think fuck me tonight and never see me again. It's very rare, So, because you can just go out,
Right.
So, going back to the access thing, unless she's there and she knows I'm looking for a few. One of my homegirls, like years ago, told me the term that these women call these kind of good cockroaches. Unless they're looking for cockroaches. And she's that mindseted woman, then she doesn't have a lot of incentive to be entertaining a bunch of.
But even if she's looking for a cockroach, she still doesn't have incentive to do that.
But she can catch as many cockroaches as she can. It's to her benefit. Like if it's a direct, let's say, I just got a copy paste. Hey, Big Daddy, cash at me. I can spam that, and whoever bites.
Yep.
If it's 20 bites, you think she gonna go, I got 20 bites. Well, I'm only gonna fuck with the
Yeah, because they're looking for something different. I had a friend of mine, hit me up and tell me about this girl he was hollering at, and he got the pictures, sent me a picture. And I did a Google search on the picture. And it was everywhere. Like this, I was like, yeah, don't send this girl no money, don't da. But she's doing exactly what you're saying. Like,
but he was about to get caught.
Oh, he was about to get caught.
But that's what I'm saying. There are guys out there. It's hard for us to relate. But there are guys out there who get caught.
They get caught because they limit themselves and they think they're not. They forget their value. he's an older dude.
I mean, I hear you. It doesn't matter why they get caught.
Well, no, what I'm saying is there's a certain, there's a lot of men that get caught just because of their, like I said, this was an older dude who, I don't know, I'm going to make this up, feels like his options are limited.
I mean, that's the only reason. Unless that or you think the woman you're cash apping is, you may have options, but that particular woman, for some reason, is something unattainable unless you do extra things, right? And so that's what goes back, like in the abundance.
That part, you're buying the woman,
right? And I was gonna say, like, you're saying that the women don't want to be bought. The way the dynamic is going these days is that
women want to be bought.
Not necessarily even like they're not even thinking about it. Like, isn't that just a subsection of women, of course? But women want to be bought, but have all the power, right? So it's just it's like, oh, it's a privilege for you to
because it used to be when a man bought a woman, he had the power.
Right, it's a privilege that you're taking.
You're gonna do what I want, or I'm leaving you in Fiji.
So that's what I'm saying. The mindset is different. One of the women I'm seeing where she was showing me a video of a woman who was like, I guess the female Kevin Samuels, she called her. Just a very, you encountered this, like, all about the bag and blah blah blah. And I was breaking down to her, why this is a waste of time beyond just the I'm a guy, so this objectively right now I broke it down. Simply the premise was, a woman like this elevates the money over the man, as if the man isn't the source of the money, meaning the value that within the man produced the income, but she's targeting the income independent of the man. Like, it's more, if he's a little fat, whatever, as long as he's giving you the money, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And teaching women to think from a frame of, particularly because she's black, and so I'm guessing most of her audience is black, and most of her audience is all black men, and it's perpetuating and so it's teaching women to elevate a man's possessions over the man, right? And if we boil a possession down, let's say that for some reason water bottles were the equivalent to a Bugatti. So if you had a water bottle, you're just a high value, right? Let's say that's just how things work, because that's really how it is, but we just don't think about it like that because
it's just that arbitrary,
right? And it's like, today Dwayne doesn't have a water bottle. Girl's not checking for him. Tomorrow comes in with his purified water. Hey, Dwayne. And not only is that happening, but he feels proud of it.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Oh, this.
Yeah.
I just got this from Walmart, right? Right. Like, the water bottle defines the man. She values that if you don't have a water bottle, you're not worth shit.
It's the penguins in the rock. That tribe of king penguins that if they have the shiniest rock, they get the chick.
But that's as primitive as we're breaking this down. Money is just a possession. And it's not even the money. It's the possessions you think the money you're going to get. So if I have a Rolls, it's like a water bottle. Well, your character doesn't matter, whether you're abusive, whether it's like, are we crazy? You know what I'm saying? Like, have we gotten, so that's the consciousness that's being pushed now. The bag mindset is we elevate even the possessions we have above ourselves. And so when people lose that possession or hit hard times, they want to kill themselves, literally. Because they've elevated, if I don't have the possession, if I don't have the water bottle, I mean, what's the point of life? Right? Like, that sounds crazy, but I had to give an extreme example of, because people are like, a water bottle. But what is the difference between a water bottle and a chain? It's the same thing. There's no reason a chain makes you more valuable than you not having it. There is literally no reason.
Well.
But there's no reason. Can't eat it. It doesn't do anything else. Like, so it was really just personal preference, but you can enjoy the things, but elevating the chain above the man is insane. So I was breaking that down to her, and she's like, oh my God, like, what the fuck was I on listening? She wasn't even listening to her in like, I'm trying to learn from her kind of, but even now she just sounds like a crazy person. And once that perspective goes in and that wisdom, right? Like a lot of people feel silly.
What's really important, and I guess that's the question. Going back to the initial question, what do we value? We do value looks.
Do men value purity or pussy?
To marry or fuck.
What we value?
They value both. I mean, you can't not value pussy.
Right.
So I don't think it's a question. If I value purity, it's like,
Well,
you got the pussy, got to come with it.
Pussy comes with it, yeah.
Like,
I ain't gonna have purity and no pussy.
you get the other P with it. I'm like, whoa.
I need the double P. I need a set of double P's.
Whoa, no, this is not what I signed up for.
what's more valuable?
But what do you mean by pussy? You mean like
Anything goes. Like if you're getting that nut, that's pussy. Chicken.
purity, meaning like there's a contingency on the woman before you fuck her?
Somewhat. So she can be 10 kids, 7 baby daddies. Cute. It's pussy. And purity, and not just so purity can be the energetic, purity can be mindset, purity can be energy, femininity, like whatever.
So, from what you're saying, purity is whatever we value
Beyond the body,
beyond the body.
the non-tangibles.
Purity.
Yeah.
Well, it depends, as Lewis says, depends on the man's consciousness.
I
if
agree.
If it's an animal-based man just got out of prison, I don't think he cares.
If he's
He has
living at
11
that
kids.
low, the root chakra
Right.
level, then
There's no way. He's. You think some dude in jail who hasn't had some pussy in 10 years.
He ain't worried about
rat's
purity.
ass, and I would be there. I would be that dude if I was in jail. I'm fucking the shit out of it. Like I might put another one in. Like I'm fucking you so damn. Like 10 years, you don't know if you'll ever see a woman eat. So that state of man, are you sick? So all that social stuff goes out the fucking window. So there's
you got a pussy? Okay, you good. Let's go.
400 pounds. Let's get it. Right? So there's an element of
Now,
abundance.
wait. I gotta qualify.
Lewis, you haven't had pussy in 20 years.
No, wait.
Just
Here's
got
the qualification.
No, not even get out of prison. You're in there for
Here
life.
is the qualification.
Okay.
Because I've had this conversation with so many women when I say shit like that. Oh, so she's 15 years old. Let's just get that off the table. Ain't none of us pedophiles in here. So we ain't never talking about that. I guarantee you somebody will have thought that. When you talk about men will fuck anything, there's a certain class of wounded woman who assumes that you mean anything.
Like a child or something.
Exactly.
But you do have sickos that.
And you do have...
So,
and that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole
Let's keep this eligible.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I just wanted to put that
conversation.
out there. That's not what we talking about.
That's meaning their lens on that isn't unfounded. It's not like, oh, you're delusional. Given
No, they're not.
referencing
They're not.
So I get that, but yeah, we're talking about adult women. But the meaning, because even with a woman, take a woman, and that's we talked about this in the previous episode about more about masculinity or just the quote unquote real man, in the sense that civilization falls apart. You don't give no fucks about 6 figures and blah blah blah. You're like, can this motherfucker fight and protect me or not?
Right.
That's your filtering system. So we talked about the aspects of the self, the animal, the social, the soul. So depending on the state of consciousness you're dwelling in, and does this mean what is valuable to you at the time, right? So if I'm in prison, me, Vidal now, not in prison, having abundance of women to have access, my value system is going to be different. Vidal, life, one woman in 20 years.
Right.
Rich future, bring it on. Like, I know.
We about to wear it out.
Like, literally, she probably won't even look the same as having access.
Right.
Only woman on abandoned island. Like, you're not looking at that woman the same way.
It no longer matters. All that, the criteria that you had, it don't matter.
All that, like one woman on island, either no pussy for the rest of your life or beat.
Criteria only matters when you have options.
But that's the thing about it. So that's why, going back to the dating apps and all that, the nature of a human changes based on what they have access. Well, the nature doesn't change, but the behavior changes based on my access. My values change based on my access. So all these women have never had this many men, like we're talking like you weren't even like a regular chick. Like, there's no way she's coming in contact with a dude worth $100 million. Like, they just would not even be in the same vicinity ever. You know, no like cell phone. Like, I'm talking just majority of human history. Like, they're never even going. And if they do, there's too much risk for the guy to fuck with a girl like that.
Right.
So, you know, just a random girl. So now, beautiful women from all over the planet have access to men, the upper echelon, financially, from all over the planet, or just celebrity or whatever, just as easily as they have access to a quote-unquote regular guy. And so now they're trying to figure out, Brenda went to Fiji. I've never been to Fiji. You know what I mean? Like, dudes that she go, oh, I'm a 21-year-old girl. Oh, come on, no.
And he's going to pay for me, so I might as well go.
Bob is a good guy, though, so I'm not going to go to Fiji. Like, you know what I mean? A 21-year-old guy, if he's getting hit up by all these, oh, you know, I have a great woman at home. It's highly probably he might bite. I'm going to just say might. I ain't even going to give the guarantee. But it's highly probable that he will want to partake if 1,000 top of the line attractive women are trying to have sex with him all the time.
Partake or partner?
I think it's more partake. I think men are very.
If you're young, and we didn't get to this point, but age matters. If you're young and you're having, Eddie Murphy did a skit, one of his earlier things where he was like, yeah, when I first became famous, you know, I've started doing Saturday Night Live or whatever he said, and it's like, yeah, women were just throwing pussy at me, and I'm just catching it, just reaching out and grabbing it. And it's like, that's how we do. If you're gonna throw it at us, and I need to add this qualifier because I usually say this: men will fuck anything, not given a reason not to, whatever your internal reason is not to. If you're in your early 20s and you don't have a reason not take the pussy,
that's fair.
You're gonna take the pussy. You just are. Women,
meaning in like, because I mean, the reason not to.
The reason not to, it could be religious. It could be, it could be spiritual, religious. It could be personal. It could be insecurities, inadequacies.
In the sense that they're the only reason to ever not sleep with them is because there's a reason not to. But I mean, I want to clarify that in terms of what you mean. But I guess you can clarify better. But what I was hearing. Because a woman does the same. She has reasons not to sleep with a guy, which is why she does.
Well, that was going to be my next point.
Right.
A woman has socially built-in reasons and possibly biological built-in reasons not to just fuck anybody.
Yeah, like I think
we don't have those biological reasons. Now, our biological impetus is to fuck everybody. We make sperm every day. You know, we got to put it someplace. That's our biological impetus. Women have one egg a month. They don't have the same push to.
I mean, even if she didn't, she can only be pregnant by one guy at one time.
And she can only be pregnant at one time. So.
And there's the factor of if all of us fucked the same women back in the day,
you'd have to know who the father was.
And we know we're all fucking the same way. If she gets pregnant. Oh, is she handling?
Now there are some cultures. That work that way, where everybody was this kid's father. Everybody was raising. I mean, it was that village.
That adaptation mindset. Exists, but most cultures aren't.
But most cultures don't do that
because they're like, well, nah. You know what I mean? I don't want, especially if I don't know y'all really well. Like, it's one thing if it's like, because that sounds more like a communal. You kind of know every. But if it's a random, we're talking like you know what I'm saying. I'm not
Moy Povich or
Brenda.
Who's the father?
We don't know who it is, but let's agree to partner up and like strangers aren't doing that. So it's like if I know about, you know what I'm saying,
you just moved here last month,
right?
You know, like if I vaguely know, because it's funny in nature, this actually occurs as well, and this is very relatable to how actually women do it now. When it comes to cheating in particular, with I think it was a tiger or a lion. I think the reason, don't quote me on this part, but I think the reason was to ensure the protection of the offspring. because the males were territorial, right? But the only way a man could know his cub is based on knowing the woman he fucked had it. And so the woman's strategy, so let's say Dwayne has his territory, Lewis has his territory, I have mine. What that would look like would be same woman. Dwayne never sees her in my territory. All he knows is she's pregnant now, and I've never seen her sleep with Lewis or with all. All I know is that I slept with her.
Right.
Lewis is thinking the same thing. I'm thinking the same thing. So we all think it's our kids. And the only...
And we all gonna come to blows.
Well, she can move through the territories, and all of them think it's their kids.
That is their kid, right?
Right. So it mitigates the danger to the cub, because all the dad has as a signaler is, well, I'm the only one fucking her.
So her strategy was to fuck them all, and
well, the strategy is to not let them know
she's fucking somebody else,
which is still it's the same.
Which is
pattern today.
Is that why women are so better at cheating than men?
Probably. I mean, I think the strategy is different. Guys, the motivation is different.
Oh, the motivation is definitely different.
And the reason to not have the person find out is different. Because if you know the only, like, let's say you could have her in a cage, the most extreme example, where you know no other dick has been in her. If she has a kid, it's impossible not to be yours, right? And so I think that's partly why men are very controlling of women's bodies in that way. Like, it's like I need to know.
We need to control their bodies and their lives because we need to make sure nobody else impregnates them.
And from a human standpoint, men do, animals do this as well, but it usually has to be proof that it's like if a lion takes over another lion's territory, he knows it's not his kid, so he'll kill them.
Yep.
But men, the human men, will usually just leave the woman, like you're not gonna attack the child. And so the strategy with the cheating thing, as far as I can tell, is just I might be. You've heard the whole beta book, some shit like that, where it's like the woman, where it's like this thing of women having sex with a particular guy and using the other guy that has more paternal long-term qualities. So it's like a strategy of, Bernard has good dick, is tall, handsome, blah blah blah. I'll get pregnant by Bernard. But Bernard ain't no motherfucking father. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with Harold, and I am cheating with Bernard. Harold has no idea, obviously. Bernard knows about Harold, but Harold doesn't know about Bernard. And so they both come inside me, but I know it's Bernard's
based on
kid.
my body.
I know it's Bernard's kid, right? So it's like an element of best of both worlds, which is what that lioness was doing. It's like, I get to keep the kids without risking being able to get all I need for the cubs, and all I have to do is show my face to the lion, and he's like, oh, well, I was putting it down. That has to be my kid.
A lot of those videos coming up in the feed.
Oh, from the audio?
No, when online, social, Insta, like, so found out 3 kids aren't his, or went to the doctor and did a DNA
Really?
test.
So
because I mean, how do you test
18 years?
How do you test for it, though? You know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those sort of like, don't bring that back up. That was a combo off the podcast. But it's certainly like another topic we were discussing that's probably is like, oh, this is probably a very common phenomenon, but it's like a shadow aspect of humanity. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things you can't know unless you know, but it's one of those things that people hide. So like, nobody's
going on since the beginning of time, and people know it's been happening since the beginning of time.
How do you test for that? How do you test for the percentage of men that have kids that aren't theirs? Like, you'd have to paternity, like that's gonna happen. All these men, test them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to get a real data on that, one, the women would have to be, well, that's going to be expensive, but let's say theoretically it could be done. The women would actually have to want that done. Right. And a lot of these
All the
women
man. Usually it's a child support issue when the man does. Now,
yeah, you're right. Some men probably like, I don't even want to know. Right. It's been 18
I don't wanna
years,
know
16 years in.
It would make me mad. All my
Right.
kids look like me. Now, they could have been fucking my brother. But, you know.
It's crazy that the paternity test thing, that we're just drifted into this direction in the convo, but I didn't know. I mean, I knew of it, but I didn't know it was enough to where it's like a feed thing, like where they out, like there are videos on this enough to.
Well, the manosphere is going to be out there. Yeah, I think leaning towards more of the red pill content, like wake up, be aware, don't just have the wool over your eyes, that kind of
That's the motivation behind
Get
it.
the test, don't give your money away. You could be the finance for somebody else's breeding.
But now with the value thing, so what if y'all had a list, I suppose, of what you think men value, what women would need to understand about the fact that men value this and why? What would that be? Like, so if I used looks, sorry ladies, we don't care if your money is right and you're a great cook. If the looks ain't there, and in our taste, like, because that's gonna vary between men. So you're saying it shouldn't matter because I have 25 degrees. Sorry, it's one of them irrefutable truths of of men. Like we like visual traits, almost. I mean, I would say it's numero uno because it's like it's hard for me to like given the option. Like a man might downgrade on the looks if he can't find the looks plus the thing he wants, but give that man the same option. Two girls, one that's exactly what you want visually and has all the other things this woman has, but not as pretty. Which one do you pick? Right? Like I think the man is gonna always gravitate to
All
the
things
best
else
looking
being equal, yeah, you're going to gravitate to the one that's most attractive to you.
visual, like physically.
Visually,
yeah.
right.
So that's just an example, but what are some things you're like, if a woman needed to understand about men from their value system, what would that look like?
That we're different than you. We don't need to be the same. It's okay that we don't think like you.
But what exactly does that look like?
It looks like I can be attracted to multiple women at the same time and want to fuck multiple women at the same time. And if I choose to be with you, I'm choosing to be with you. It's a choice, not a biological imperative for us.
Meaning you're saying the urge for the other women didn't disappear magically. Like you still have that.
Right. The other woman did disappear magically. I chose not to deal with them.
Right.
For women, that choice is easier. It's more built into their nature.
Yeah, they're more monogamy oriented.
They're more monogamy oriented. And that's not bad or good. It's just we're different.
Well, it makes sense from what we were talking about earlier. You can only have kids for one guy at a time. Like just
Right.
Like it's just not evolutionarily beneficial to be running around like a man runs around.
Now, that does beg one other question. All my kids are grown.
Mm.
When I was young, my value was very different. What I valued was very different than what I value now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was ultimately young, I valued feminine. It didn't matter. If you pussy, okay, you good. Like, it really did. I had criteria, and that criteria bubbled certain people to the top, but I was much more... It was harder for me to say no.
So if there was a pie It'd be half pussy, 99%.
99% of half pussy. I was like, oh, you have a bunch of other stuff I like, so I'm gonna eat this slice of pie more often. But all this other pie is out there, and sometimes I'll say no because I'm focusing on this pie, but it's gonna be in my head. It's gonna be hard.
Meaning like a pie in terms of the amount. Like let's say it's like, okay, let's say for me, attractiveness is 50% of the pie, and then femininity is 30%. You know, like I'm saying, if there was a ratio of what was mattering, is like 99% of the pie has pussy as far as the requirement.
As far as the requirement,
then 1% is like maybe pretty, maybe
so.
Like of weight, like not overweight or whatever that looks like.
In that young phase,
yeah,
I had the idea that I still wanted a wife and kids and family.
Right.
And you know, my parents had that. I was planning on going down that road. The idea, though, was that there's all this feminine energy out there that I want and want to taste and explore and da 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 da.
Right.
And I still knew what I wanted, and I still knew what I valued. I still had those core things that I valued. I don't know that that's changed drastically over the years. What shifted was my ability to focus, my ability to say, okay, I'm going to keep this one because we're going to raise kids together. You know, as opposed to we're just going to fuck. You know, once we've raised kids, like I said, all my kids are grown. What is the value for me is a question I've been asking of ever being married again. You know, I'm not having any more kids. I don't need more kids. You know, I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I'm not pressed to have more kids. If that's not the focus of me being in a relationship, what's the point of being in a relationship for a man? I don't know that. Other than what?
Other than the companionship.
Other than companionship, but like you said earlier, in this day and age, companionship is easy.
So you're saying from a standpoint of, are you saying in a general ask of what is the value of a man, or for Lewis specifically in this space?
Well, not so much Lewis specific. Nobody can answer that. More along the lines of pointing to what men value and focus on shifts as we move through life.
For sure.
The young buck is going to value something different than the mid buck or the older buck or everybody's going to value something different. That the values may not change. Men are always going to want pretty, you know, which is why you have 70-year-old men dating 30 or 40-year-old women, because that's what we value. Our media has indoctrinated us to see youth as valuable in women and age as not valuable in women. Now, it's the inverse for men, but that's what our media is indoctrinated to do. So, all that to be said is, depending on who you, speaking to the women out there, are talking to, you have to understand what they value is different depending on where they are in life. You know, are they established? Do they have wealth or stability, financial stability? Do they have clear-cut goals? Have they done the work to mature themselves to actually get to a point where they can say, I know who I am and what I want. Yeah.
So your question was, what are the values? What do we feel are the values that men have?
Right. Communicating to a woman.
And I didn't answer your question at all, did I?
I think you were dancing around it. So I know what you meant. I don't know if it's super clear to the audience what you meant, but that's how I was hearing it. But the question was like more so like I gave the example of beauty. That would be like one of them. That, you know, we're just giving you the truths. Like, men want beauty. That's why y'all wear a ton of makeup. You know it inherently. But if you're in a phase where you don't feel the most beautiful, which is fair, you still want a partner. But the answer is not to try to shame the man out of what he likes. That's not going to work. The answer is to either work on becoming that or find a guy that, for him, the other things you bring to the table are
what he values.
But you can't also, in looking, when that man comes, you find your pairing and go, you're not 6'10", you know, right? That's where that is coming, right? Like, it's like, you know, like the girl I told you was saying, oh, you know, there's a small pool of men that you are open to. There's not a small pool of men, you know, so it's like, well, there's a small pool of men that, and says like, she's like, well, and in that small pool, they want to date an Instagram model, you know, like, as if that's somehow lesser than what she is, and that's the sentiment. Right? It's like that they don't know the value of a real woman, and this the whole point of this convo is to be like, you don't get to define what that value is for a man. If he wants a young, tight-bodied, pretty Instagram model, and he's a lawyer, you think he should want you because of your 54 degrees? Sorry.
Every time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, that's the thing about it is like, you know, that's that pill you got to swallow. Because then at that point you've reached acceptance. You can actually move forward. But you're playing in that delusional circle the whole time of no, I will find the 6'10" with the 6-pack and the 12-inch dick and
I shouldn't have to present myself any differently than what I want to present myself as.
Right, and I'm just going to remain 300 pounds.
I'm going to stay 300 pounds, and I'm going to dress in a sack, and I'm a, you know, it shouldn't matter that I'm attractive or not. It shouldn't matter that I'm.
It shouldn't matter. That's what we're describing.
Exactly.
Like, what this shouldn't matters. It's like, what's the reality? And so attractiveness is one we've all agreed on. So what's I'd say femininity, but I mean, I know some guys are feminine, so maybe I've seen dynamics where they're with masculine women.
I think the only thing that's universal is physical, and physical isn't even like you were talking about makeup. I don't like makeup on a woman. I prefer like someone with natural raw features, maybe some lip gloss, and you know.
But that's why women use makeup.
No, I agree. But my point is that physical attractive is the universal value for all of us, but what that means is not universal.
I think there are other things. I think if most men want qualities, let's say a woman has traits, because a woman can have traits that make her incompatible no matter who the man is.
Agreed, but what I'm saying is none of those traits are universal to all men.
I haven't critically thought about that enough where I can agree with that. Because when I think about what makes, like, let's say there are things a man could know he's getting from a woman up front. So let's say I don't, very rarely, if ever, I meet a guy who's like, I don't want any kids. It's very rare. I mean, there are, but if we're going to use men as a group, because we can find outliers for everything. If he wants kids, I don't think he wants any old woman with any old traits to be the mother of his children. So there are certain traits. Now, some men just don't think critically enough. She's so bad that they get her pregnant. But I don't think if you sat down and talked to him and said, hey, do you just want any old woman to be mother? He'd have traits that.
What would those traits be, though?
That's what I mean. Where I have to I can just blurt some stuff out.
Right, but and that's kind of my point. Yeah, there are we
nurturing. I don't think is a subjective trait. Like that's you're either nurturing or you're not. And so if she's not nurturing, and he knows that, like he knows for a fact she's a non-nurturing woman, I don't see too many guys going, I want her to be the mother of my children, from a keeping a woman standpoint. Because that's really what we're talking about, keeping the woman, not even sex. That's a whole different conversation.
I don't know that most men even have the conversation of nurturing, especially at a younger age.
But they're not, I mean, we're talking about a dude who's, what they're looking for is, they say they're looking for a wife to be the mother. They're looking for that.
So when a man says he's looking for a wife,
right? You think he just has arbitrary things in his head?
I think for every man it's different. and I do think I don't think they're arbitrary. I think they're based on his nurture and nature and how he was raised and what his values are. Some men want, oh yeah, I want my woman to be a good Christian woman who does da 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 da. I don't know. I've never had a conversation with a man who's like, from a mother's perspective, I'm looking for her to be nurturing. I think most of us assume that if you're a woman, you're nurturing. That's not true, but I think most of us work from that assumption. So it's not necessarily a requirement where we say, this is the kind of nurturing I want a woman to have.
It is.
Whereas we have a requirement of, this is what I want the woman to look like.
Well, I think it is a requirement still. It's just that you can't see it like you can scan for the physical. So you don't know until after the fact. Like a lot of guys find out. You talk about a woman who's strong but not a bitch. That's something you learn over time. You can't tell that through her physicalities.
Well, that's kind of my point, though. It's not something that's on our value list.
But I'm saying that there are things, let's say, because if we just binary it out, there are women who are not supportive in this world.
Correct.
If the guys, I don't know any guy in his right mind, that like just a normal guy, not like a crazy outlier that goes, okay, so here's the trace you're getting. She's not supportive. She's not nurturing. She's gorgeous.
Well, see, I'm looking at it from the opposite perspective. I'm looking at it from, these are the things I'm looking for.
But those are things he's looking for, but he's not I'm saying if we frame it in the negative and say there's the absence of, then you start to realize the value is there, you just don't explicitly think about it. Because if I take it away, very few men are going to accept it. If I say she's gorgeous, just not nurturing or supportive, if 99% of men say I don't want her for a long-term partner, that means it is a requirement for most men. Unless you can think of a case where a guy is okay with her not being nurturing or supportive. Just in the same way if I said she's ugly.
I think also the polarity, to even the point of whether or not they're femininity, because
right.
Some guys maybe in their feminine. I'd say polarity just being the opposite. If he is the partner who's raised by women and wants to connect and he's got the nurturing, then he may want somebody who does has their 50 degrees or manages.
I don't need her to be nurturing, I got that.
I've never seen that, but fair enough. I've never seen that.
Especially today, you see it. There's an increase in the number of stay-at-home men who are swapping roles, where the woman is going to work and the man is staying home.
Even then, I'm thinking, if I told that guy up front, okay, she's not nurturing, maybe, I mean, I could be wrong on that, and that he's like, oh, I'll be the nurturer. Maybe that exists in like a actual, not like a, so I said not a skewed, like a normal guy, not
right.
Like a super, I can't see the regular Joe. Oh no, I'll be the nurturing, and she can not have any nurturing or supportive qualities whatsoever. Right. Whereas women are a lot clearer on these things they like non-physically in men, like as a group. Like
they are. They are much clearer.
We are more, as you're saying, there's a lot of assumptions. Because she's a woman, she's nurturing.
Right.
We assume these things, but when you get into situations, you hear these.
And what nurturing means is different for everybody. So that's that too.
Yeah. What it looks like for sure. I agree with you on that. And what support looks like with the
and
base
what support
trait,
looks like.
just like how beauty looks different, but that doesn't mean it's not a requirement. So like the trait in and of itself.
All right, I'll give you that. I can give you that. So nurturing, support, beauty, not necessarily in that order.
No, not even in that.
Communication, especially bridging from emotional communication of women to logical, pragmatic, or feminine women to logical, pragmatic, masculine men. Because ultimately, if compatibility, if he's detecting like, can't even figure out
What the hell is that?
fight, like, oh fuck this,
True,
like, I
yeah.
don't want to build shit with that. Like,
We always use like the descriptive feeling of peace. You hear that going around a lot, but really,
I need
what he's
peace.
talking about is what you're talking about.
mm-hmm.
It's like I don't want that because I've been in that. And I don't
Comes
like
down to a fight, comes down to disagreement or learning opportunity, growth opportunity. If it's going to be that much more work and stress, nah.
And I guess we have to qualify too, and you kind of alluded to that we're speaking about healthy relationships. There's definitely relationships where communication is volatile and they're comfortable with it being volatile.
It's not what they want, though. And say what values
I actually know some men and women that is absolutely what they want.
they value that.
They value the conflict. I don't think it's healthy, but they absolutely value the conflict, where they feel you don't love me unless you're fighting me.
I know that.
is that an outlier conversation as well, or is that like a big enough chunk of the pie?
I don't think it's an outlier. I think it's actually a huge segment of our society, but it's not healthy. It's comes from a wounded a wounded place where,
I think that's the outlier.
That's how my parents showed it love. So
As wanting that though, like if they could have the alternative of a normal conversation, they choose war.
I don't know that the alternative even exists for them.
Meaning like sit them down.
You'd have to show them that it existed.
Well,
And if you have to show them it exists, then it's not of value to them because they don't know it exists.
that's the access to the society in general. Everything's about healing, getting therapy. Like you have to be under a small fucking rock to still be in a place where it's not even distinguished or aware of, oh, that's unhealthy, that's toxic, and there's options to not have that. Like the general person still feeling.
I think there's the whole Darwin's hierarchy of needs thing. The majority of people in this country are fighting to have their needs met and still live life. I forget what the percentages are. People living at the poverty level or just above the poverty level and all of that. A lot of these, not all obviously, but a lot of these people are coming from very wounded places and having wounded conversations. Even when they escalate out of their poverty situations, they still have that mindset. They're still operating from that wounded place. And if they don't know to go seek therapy, and especially men in general, it's still, Will Smith talks about it, everybody's talking about it now, but there's a huge section of men who still think it's bullshit.
What's bullshit?
Therapy, looking in yourself, fuck all that.
I'm getting on to it's transitioning for me away from the original point of whether or not people are aware of like just healthy dynamics or actively want, especially from the men's perspective, men who consider the unhealthy behavior not for that to be the desire. She doesn't really love me unless she's screaming at me and then we gotta have makeup sex.
I've seen men and women both in that space.
Seen, but is that that's what we're saying is outliers. We're talking about billions
So-
or 300 million in America. The percentage that are, I still want that, or undistinguished, unaware. The only way it's going to look, a good partner, she going to want to fight me every fucking day, but that means we're in love.
What's the percentage for it to be an outlier?
Stepping in the majority. I mean, well, because typically 60 smack dab in the middle, 30. So you're saying...
Because I don't think it's the majority at all. But I would guess, and obviously I haven't.
None of us do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't.
Now I'm going to though.
But I think about like the question is like wanting, right? There's a difference between like what I'm putting up with, and what if I could change it, would I pick like magic lamp, healthy quote unquote relationship, screaming and do the majority choose war. And so if the percentage of people who would choose war, meaning how it looks, to me seems like a small, like knowing and picking that. Now, if you don't know any like how to get to that, fair enough. That's just we don't know how to.
You still have a dream of
right.
Oh, what if it could be like?
That's like the girl with the dude who was 5'4", and she'd want him to be 6'4", but he's not. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like in the sense that if you think she doesn't desire it, fair enough. But she's just this what we're working with.
I think you're optimistic.
It's just a wrap.
I think you guys are optimistic. And then again, I don't have numbers.
Maybe.
I just know what I see in the conversations I have with people and what I see people doing to each other just in the media in general.
What they do and what they want are different, though. Like that's like a value is something.
It's normal for them, though. Now, again, they're in a couple of places. They're in either this doesn't exist for me or this doesn't exist. Something different. Something different. You know? I'm either here because that other world doesn't exist for me. It's only on television and for other people. Or, yeah, that's all fantasy. Nobody lives like that. Or,
I mean, I can believe I'll never be a billionaire because the government and racism, and that doesn't mean I don't want $1 billion. I just don't think I'll get it. I still value it. You know what I'm trying? That's why I'm trying to make the distinction. Are you saying that the desire for it is not there at all, or it's just complacency? Oh, I don't think I can get that, so let's fucking thug it out and scream, because that's all I've known. I don't believe I could get a healthy relationship. You know what I'm saying? But I'd like it. I'd like for us to sit down.
See, and I think that's where you and I are diverging. Is like, I don't know that a lot of people are even at a space to say I'd like it.
Which is what Dwayne's point was.
Right.
Saying that I think he's saying that there's enough awareness to where that's even. It's not like people is possible. Like, you know, like you've never
it's possible,
seen.
but I don't know that it's something. It's like, yeah, that's not normal to me.
I can see that.
And again, we don't have any statistics on any of this, so
Even if we did, I mean, that's even
Episode 10, closing thoughts, what men want.
It's that time.
way beyond time though. I'd say that the most important thing is just listen to what the dude's saying, ask him, and then listen. I think that's the simplest route. Not get upset. Oh, I'm not. You know what you just said. I don't have all of those things. Doesn't mean just like how 99% of the guys you've been with don't have everything. Just the same way. Like, that's not the basis of a relationship. She had every single thing on my list. One, we don't know what we want or what we need as well as we think we do. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. But also, just ask them.
Yeah.
You know. Listen, that's the big piece.
Men's perspective has value as much as female's perspective has value.
And then not get upset with him when he answers the question. That's a critical piece.
And doesn't agree with you.
It's poetic. Equal and not the same.
Equal and not the same. That's your thing. That's what's up.
Closing up.
Another one and done.